Hello, friends, and welcome to the best indie comic that you've never read. I'm Mark Stanislavski. I am also Good Ideas Comics, and we're here in the Comic Cave in the heart of Michigan. And I've been wanting to do this video for so long. This is actually one of the first books that I wanted to do when I came up with this idea to do this channel. And I was hesitant. I was very hesitant, and even after doing, however many videos I've done now, 10, 12, whatever it is, I was still, I thought of this book was always in my mind. I've never forgotten about it. And I finally said, okay, I got to do this book because this is the sole reason for this channel. Um, and I can tell you with almost certain fact that not a lot of you have read this book. A lot of you almost certainly do not have the entire run. You may have a couple of issues, and I'm sure a few of you out there do have the entire run. And I'd be curious to know what you think of it. If you like it love it as much as I do. But yeah, I was when I first started going to comic book stores, and I was so into Marvel and DC that I didn't really pay attention to indies at first. And then I kind of came across a bunch of indies, and they showed me a whole new side to comic books that I never even thought of after reading superhero books from Marvel and DC for several years. And this is totally different. This is Malibu Comics. This is Eternity's arm of Malibu Comics. Malibu put out some solid stuff back in the 80s. Um, if you're a new comic reader, I implore you to hunt down everything you can on Malibu, Eternity, Adventure Comics. There was a couple of them. Aircell, I think, was another offshoot of Malibu, because they really put out some solid stuff. And um, like I said, I was so hesitant, and this is a 7-issue series, and I think obviously as you read it, it's designed to have been longer than 7 issues. But I think they, they told them, say, hey, we're sales are kind of low. We're going to have to stop this book. But they gave them 7 issues, and for the most part, this is a complete story. But it ends with the possibility that there could be a sequel, that there could be more, right? Um, I know Outlander, which is the title. I know there's a manga book also called Outlander or Outlanders, so those get confused all the time. And of course, there's the great Sean Connery movie called Outlander, which is a great movie. If you haven't seen it, I would scour the internet for DVDs and buy that DVD, because that's a great movie, Outlander, with Sean Connery and Peter Boyle. Both passed away. Rest in peace to both of those superb actors that I love. Um, Outlander was written by Scott Finley, who, from my what I'm able to find out, Scott Finley is or was a screenwriter who lived in Hollywood. And just by reading these 7 issues, it looks like he had this idea probably for a television show, because the way, it's very episodic, um, but it looks more like it could have been a television show instead of a movie. But he hooked up with Brooks Hagen, the artist, and Link Hyatt, who is the editor. of this book. And let me tell you, every so often, right? For all you old time comic readers out there, every so often you come across a book where the writer and the artist just meld, and they just put out great stuff. They put out great stories. They put out great work. Of course, Claremont Byrne X-Men run come to mind, right off the bat. That's a great run. And pretty much anything written by Roger Stern. But the Stern Romita Jr. Spider-Man run comes to mind. The Doug Moench, Paul Gulacy Master of Kung Fu come to mind. The Doug Moench, Kelly Jones Batman run comes to mind. These are just top of the heap, cream of the crop runs that if you don't have these in your collection, you're missing out, definitely. So back to Outlander. Yeah, so it's been so long since I read this. I bought this off the stand in 1988, I believe, right? 1987, 88. I read it, loved every issue, bag boarded it, put it in a box, and really have not taken it back out. So it's been what? Almost 40 years, right? 38 years since I've opened these books to look at them. And I took the first issue out when I was preparing to do this video, and I opened up the first page, and I was like, oh wow, look at, you got the art. And let me tell you something about Brooks Hagen, the artist. He is not just an artist. Okay, Brooks Hagen knows how to draw a scene, knows what angles, knows everything there is to know. I mean, he's not just an artist. He's an architect. He's something else. There's not a lot of artists that can draw and can tell a story through their art. Brooks Hagen is one of those guys. He can tell you the story just through his art. Very cable, very television movie. And that's another thing about this series that you need to know, is that if you've never read this, if you're a fan of action movies in general, but 80s action movies in particular, you will absolutely love this book, because every issue is pretty much like a mini 80s action movie, but the entire 7 issues as a whole come across as a big 80s action movie. And I love that 80s action movies, the one-liners, the hokiness, the funny deaths that the henchmen um, sometimes lose their life to, and it's all in here. We get some backup here, pretty much tells you, gives you a little bit of what's going on. But look, this first page with all the wires down here, it's gorgeous. I loved it. The monitors. I mean, look at all the exposition, all the balloons. You don't see this in comics nowadays, folks. Okay, when you read a book nowadays, it's more looking at art, and you read a sentence here and a sentence there. This is telling you what's going on. This is telling you the story. And it's great. So this guy here runs this super secret government organization, and he's gone completely insane, and he's out to get Adam Gallo, who is the Outlander. Outlander used to work for this organization, and what the Outlander does is the Outlander goes to goes to other countries and kind of sows the seeds of rebellion in those countries. Uh, Turns the country kind of into an unstable. And if it's nice and stable, government nice and stable, he makes it unstable, so that the government gets overthrown, and that's what Adam Gallo was the best Outlander that this organization ever had, and so that's why he wants him. And they're trying to find him, and they're torturing this guy. But I mean, just everything, and again, like an 80s action movie, he gets the information he wants up where to find Adam Gallo. Okay, so then everyone's going, but in this, as all the helicopters take off, oh, he's here on this boat, and we get to see just how um, crazy this guy truly is, because everyone cows because he's the leader of and he's the government, right? The government can do whatever they want. So everyone just says, whatever you want, sir, whatever you want. And it pisses him off because he wants, everyone says the same thing. It's whatever you say, sir, whatever you say. And he's like, God damn it. I don't want it to be whatever I say, but yeah, he's gone totally off the rails, totally insane. And yeah, I mean, just the artwork, every panel, the close-ups, the backgrounds, exactly what's happening. I love this type of artwork. The shading, even though it's black and white, the great shading, it's just, and this is just, and so they find this guy on the boat. They find this guy, he's just a mechanic. He's on the boat. So Gallo's not on the boat. So they take this guy and they question him. They're like, "Hey, where is he? You're not gonna get it out of me. I'm not telling you nothing." Blah. They blow up the boat so that Gallo doesn't have anything to come back to. And he made a mistake and said something. And basically told him, oh, he went out for that pump gasket. Oh, and so of course they tossed him out of the helicopter. It's great. It's great stuff. And they think they're going to get Adam Gallo. And everyone's like trying to tell him, hey, you can't do this stuff. You're still part of the government. But he's totally insane. He's like, screw you. I can do whatever I want. Get lost. Come and get me. He basically tells him, come and get me. If I'm doing something you don't like, then come and get me. But just look at all the balloons, all the words. Look at this, all the words and everything. I'm telling you, folks, you don't get this in books nowadays. Yeah, this is really nice stuff. Wow. Yeah. Man, I can't tell you. When I cracked this book open, it all came flooding back to me, and I was like, "Yep, nope, this hasn't aged at all. This hasn't lessened in my mind at all. None of it. This is, And then this is the love interest or whatever you want to call her. This is Cassandra Gale, who is a love interest of Adam Gallo, of Dr. Smith here, Mr. Smith. I think also had feelings for her, but he more wants to find her because he knows Adam Gallo is also trying to find her. So if he can get to her first, then Adam Gallo is going to come to him to get her. But look at this. Look at that page. I love it. Yeah, see, and you see how he's throwing up, but you don't see anything, but you know what's happening. You know what's going on. Yeah. Yeah, this is good stuff right here. And then we finally see Adam Gallo. And Adam Gallo has, as of right now, you know, when we meet Adam Gallo, but you learn so much about him, that he was the best Outlander, right? And he also has a dead left hand, I believe it is. And you know, there's a whole backstory to how his left hand doesn't work, and there's a thing that it could be psychosomatic, that it really does work. But yeah, this is, you know, and this is what I'm talking about with the '80s actions, about the helicopters crashing, and then like these guys get cut in half by the rotors when they fly off the helicopters. But there's no gore. You know, like in an '80s action movie, you know what happens, but you know, and it's, you know, the helicopter blades just go flying. You know, they take out the van, they take out the diner sign, they just to create total havoc, which is fair, right? It's yeah. Yeah, I mean, and this is how the first issue ends, with him on the run, getting away, with him on the run. I mean, folks, you know, you don't, you know, great covers, right? Great covers. I'm telling you, Brooks Hagen. And now Brooks Hagen, I know he's done some work for DC. I think I have a Justice League annual that he drew. I want to say he did a couple other issues of DC, but his work isn't cut out for superheroes. This type of stuff, you know, the the action movie, man on the run, you know, uh, this story, these issues remind me of Enemy of the State, the movie Enemy of the State with what was that? Will Smith and Gene Hackman. It reminds me of Chain Reaction, right, with Keanu Reeves. If you haven't seen those movies, go get them, because those are great movies. You know, and there's a chase. You know, they're always following these people, and they're chasing after them. They're trying to get them, and it's the same thing here. And it's and Brooks Hagen delivers it perfectly. He just delivers it perfectly. And then we have issue two. I'm not going to go through all the issues, folks. I just, yeah, yeah. His left hand. This is where he says his left hand's been dead for 2 years, and we see some things. And he goes to see this guy. This guy used to work for the agency, and he's a prosthetic guru. You know, he's a number one engineer. He does all kinds of stuff. So that's why Gallo went to him, and that guy is going to come up with a prosthetic to make his left hand work. You know, that's what he's doing here. You know, he has a dog that he put all prosthetics on, because I guess the dog is paralyzed or whatever. So he put the prosthetics on the dog so the dog can move and run and do whatever he has to do. And yeah, look, I mean, come on, folks. You don't see books like this anymore nowadays. And the funny thing is, hold on, let me get it. Um, there we go. Sorry about that, folks. Anyway, speaking of Brooks Hagen, and I know he's done a lot of work for he did a lot of work for Malibu. He did covers. He did all kinds of stuff. He also did something for I want to say Caliber Comics. I believe he did an issue of uh, uh, something for Caliber. And at the time, I was making my own comic. I was making the Elvis Files, and this is my book, you know, this is my first attempt at making a comic, and I wanted Brooks Hagen to do this cover. And I think, you know, and again, this is what? This is in the 90s, mid to late 90s. Not really a lot of social media. I know it's hard to believe, kids, but not really a lot of social media. It's not really easy and I think Brooks Hagen was on the West Coast and I was on the East Coast. So, you know, he wasn't coming to any cons, any shows or anything like that, at least not that I saw. So I saw that he had done something with Caliber. And I think this is like in the early days of email, and I had emailed an editor at Caliber Press and said, "Hey, you know, I'm looking to get Brooks Hagen to do a cover for me. Is there any way, you know, you can give me some contact info that I can contact him?" You know, now think about this. You know, here's a guy here's somebody out of the blue emailing a Caliber editor saying, "Hey, I want to, you know, I mean, I could be, you know, it's stupid, right? It's stupid." Of course, they just said, "No, we don't have his contact info." And that was it. And I was like, yeah, I didn't thinking to myself, I didn't think so, but I figured I'd give it a shot. So I never did get Brooks Hagen to draw, because I think if Brooks Hagen had drawn this cover, uh, but then I found Gil Sanchez, who drew this cover, and when I gave him the cover idea, this is how I pictured the cover, and he drew it. He drew it exactly how I pictured it in my mind. So I guess I gave him a good enough description because he did the perfect job. You know, this is exactly, but you know, I don't know. I know it would have looked a lot different with if Brooks Hagen did it, but yeah. And then this issue 3 focuses on Cassandra Gale, and this guy is he's a biker dude. He's like a biker serial killer, and he kidnaps people, puts them on his bike, and just drives crazy, and then like throws him off the bike and kills him, like right here. You know, he just drives crazy and she's banging on him and she's like, ah, so he like stops quick, she goes flying and she's dead. And that's, you know, and then she winds up killing him at the end of the story. Spoiler alert. But yeah, I mean, the covers, I mean, you have the good thing is you have the same exact team doing all the issues. And so at Malibu, and then with issue 5, it goes to Eternity Comics. I wonder if this is when they split off. And this is what? This has got to be, yeah, 1988. And this was published monthly, by the way, folks. I did see an entire run of this book on eBay for like $9. Of course, they were charging you like 13 and change for priority mail shipping. But you know what? $22 for this entire story, to me, is worth it. If I were you, I would go on eBay, try to find it if you can, if it's still out there, and order it, because I'm telling you, look at just by the covers alone, you know, especially this last cover here. It's a fantastic story. And man, it's too bad we just, you know, I don't know whatever happened to Brooks Hagen. I don't know what he's up to. And it's just too bad that he wasn't able to do more stuff, because yeah, you know, and his art is, it kind of reminds me a little bit of Guy Davis. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Guy Davis. He did the Marquee. He did Sandman Mystery Theater for DC, for Vertigo, DC Vertigo. Sandman Mystery Theater, another book that if you have never read it, read it. It is a masterpiece, written by Matt Wagner, and Guy Davis did. He did a bunch of art um, for that book, and then he spun off and he did the Marquis, which I think was also published by Caliber, if I remember correctly, at least for a little while. But yeah, the Marquis, also a great book. But yeah, I mean, you know, this guy getting thrown out of a hotel, all the glass, all the shards of glass. I mean, Jesus. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I remember R.A. Jones. He did Dark Wolf for Eternity, The Fist of God. That looks, I don't think I've ever read that. I don't think I've ever read Dark Wolf either. He also created Scimitar. Scimitar I've read. Scimitar is, it's good. It's a good book. That's another book actually that, um, if you're on the lookout for good indie stuff, pretty much like I said, anything from Malibu Eternity, and there's a couple other um, Malibu books that we're going to take a look at because I think they are just outstanding. And I can't speak highly enough of this book. I know Link Hyatt. I think in the text page here, in the last issue, in the text page, Scott Finley talks about the book, and like halfway through the book, Link Hyatt, I guess, moved to Australia, and from what I saw, he still lives in Australia, has like a media company in Australia, doing very well. But yeah, this is just one of those books that, everything comes together. Such a great story. Like I said, if you're a fan of 80s action movies or any action movie, which pretty much just about everyone is a fan of action movies, specifically 80s, you got to get this book. You got to get this book and you got to read it. It's recommended for mature readers. It does have a lot of mature stuff in there. I think there's like, there is some nudity, not a lot. I think issue 4, you see some female breastises, but yeah, it's cover to cover action, and front cover here to back cover here. Action story, easy to follow along. You don't get lost. Finley keeps it on track. Um, like I said, if they ever made this into a TV show, hell, I would watch it. I would definitely watch it. But I think we're going to call it here. You've seen the interior art. Brooks Hagen does all 7 issues. I don't even know what else to say other than the fact that this is not only the best indie comic that you've never read, I would have to say it's the best comic book story out there that you've never read. And yes, I'm even including Claremont and Burns' X-Men, in all the other books and stuff that I've talked about. I'm including all of that. This is just such a great book from start to finish. And I'm actually so glad that my fear was unfounded. My fear that what I remembered about the book was wrong. And I'm glad that I was wrong and that I did remember it, and that this is a book that, um, I will cherish. I will always cherish this book. I will never get rid of this book. Um, and every so often, especially after pulling it out to look at it after 38 years, almost 40 years, maybe it won't be another 38 years before I pull it out again and give it a gander, because it's so great. So yeah, I think that's going to do it for this video. Again, Outlander, Malibu, Eternity Comics, 1987, 1988, low print indie, but that doesn't mean it's bad. This is the best comic that you've never read. And friends, I think that's all I have to say, except we will see you next time in the funny pages. Have a good one. Hey everyone, thanks for sticking around to the end of the video. You guys are the best, and I truly appreciate you. Just a side note, I not only talk about comics and collect comics and review comics and love comics, I also make comics. And these are some of the comics that I've made. And if you're interested in them, there's a wide variety of genres. You can go to www.goodideascomics.com, as you can see in the banner, and you can order them there. Or if you don't want to order them from a website, I can understand that. You can email me at goodideascomics@gmail.com, and we'll hook you up with some of this great stuff. Indie books are the best, and you guys are the best. Thank you very much. See you in the funny pages.